Uh, Welcome to all of you that have joined, folks out on the East Coast. Hope you're starting your lunch hour and you're going to enjoy your meal while listening to us today. My name is Rick Trujillo. I'm the Director of Cloud Services here at MicroAge. I've also got my good friend, Mr. Jason Lane, one of our pre-sales engineer, and he heads up the heading up department of the new commerce experience. One of the authorities here on Microsoft licensing and definitely has put a lot of work and done a lot of research, and we've done a lot of educating these past several months with clients as it relates to all these changes coming up in 2022 for Microsoft pricing and pricing program changes. Um, Here's a quick agenda here. So we are going to talk about, the price increase and what new commerce experience is very briefly. We do have a lot of other information that you can reference on our website. I'm going to pull our website up really quick here. But if you go to microage.com, go to resources and just check out our resource library and just click on videos, you'll find a whole slew of videos that we have dedicated to Microsoft licensing, the pricing programs, the price increase, all this stuff coming up. Our webinar that we held back in December, which does a pretty good deep dive into the new commerce experience and answers a lot of those what if questions, all set up here on microage.com. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this link into the chat just so you folks can jump in there and get some further education around, what we're going to be talking about today. But today specifically, we're going to talk about the deadlines, right? I think there's been a lot going on with this the past several months here. There's still a little bit of confusion. If you're a MicroAge client, maybe you're still trying to make your decision on what you want to do as far as your new commerce experience early adoption and the promotion is concerned. We'll talk about that a little bit today. And maybe you're with another CSP provider out there, or maybe you're with Microsoft Direct and you haven't quite decided, what direction you want to go or who you want to go with, or maybe you just haven't received enough information yet from your other sources and you're just looking for, additional information. We hope we can provide all of that to you today. We're also going to talk about the MicroAge process for the new commerce experience. Okay, so this is how we onboard clients into NCE. Our intention is to give you the most cost-effective point of entry into the program, right? So we'll cover that in some detail today, and then we'll leave you with a few action items. Jason, is there anything else you want to cover out of the gate? Or you want to just get started?
Yeah, let's get rocking. But I do want to point out that we're in a very critical time in the upcoming deadlines when it comes to the new commerce experience from a strategical perspective, right? We want to be able to provide with the most optimal ability of delaying that price increase and also taking advantage of the early adoption promotion discounting that's available for at least the next 12 months that we were able to do so. But yeah, let's go ahead and kick it off. And
Sure.
if you want, I'll say, the things happening here in 2022, right? Microsoft announced, late last year that they're going to have, for the first time in quite some time, a price increase on the 6 core products that Microsoft has, and that relates to, and I know we have a slide coming up, but to mention it relates to Office 365 E1, E3, M365 E3, along with the business plans, Business Basic and Business Premium. Now, the new commerce experience is one way I think Microsoft created because they want more of a commitment moving forward from clients when it comes to Office 365 subscriptions and when it comes to the flexibility of adding and being able to reduce licenses, which has been easily done month to month in the past, where now they're asking for that level of commitment based on the subscriptions that you have for the next 12-month period where you can add licensing, but no longer receiving credit for reducing licenses for the period.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the kind of the rule changes that are coming with new commerce experience as it compares to what we call the legacy CSP program that more than likely you, the Microsoft customers today, are under. But let's talk about that price increase a little bit more, Jason. Here's the slide. Here are the products that we're talking about. Maybe you want to take a minute to walk everybody through that.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So anywhere really up to 20% price increase for these base licenses will start going into effect on March 1st. So that will be if you commit to a new, whether it's with a legacy term, anything like that. Once your contract does go into that renewal, that's where you will start seeing that price increase along with going to the new commerce experience. One thing I want to point out is the new commerce experience will not be an option for customers. At some point, everybody, in order to get Office 365 subscriptions, will have to go to new commerce experience. The key point is when you go to new commerce experience, whether it's waiting and then taking advantage of it sometime down the road, or now to prevent and delay these price increases for the next 12 months. We're on a limited time here as March 1st is only a week away to be able to really take advantage of the situation and get the best pricing for the next 12 months. So taking action now is imperative.
Yeah, and I think the message we want to drive home here, folks, is even though we're stating that the price increase effective date is March 1st of 2022, does that mean if you own any of these licenses that all of your licenses are automatically going to go up on March 1st of 2022? Not necessarily. You know, you do have a subscription in place under the legacy CSP program that you're currently under. So that subscription, these changes will not be impacted until that subscription actually comes up for renewal. Now, does that mean it's the best thing to just wait and find out what your options are at a later time? Not necessarily, because there are early adoption promotions in place, and there are things that you can do to avoid these upcoming price increases, at least for the next 12 months, as Jason just stated. So a couple other things to note when it comes to this price increase, and I just sort of covered that a little bit. It's not going to impact licensing on your current CSP subscription until your CSP subscription renews on or after March 1st of 2022. So we're going to talk about, you know, when we get to the action items part of this today, that as a best practice, just go in and look into your Office 365 tenant, find out when your subscription end dates are. Sometimes you'll have multiple subscriptions depending on when you provision different plans at various times, and just finding out, you know, what kind of cards you're dealing with here, so that you can be a little more strategic about how you navigate this. And again, the price increase relates to these Microsoft 365 and Office 365 products, okay? And I think that's really where a lot of confusion is coming into play. A lot of people are associating the new commerce experience price changes with the price increase, and these are two different things. If the new commerce experience never existed, these 6 products are still going up in price, right? Not related to new commerce. So there's 2 things we're trying to juggle here, okay? So again, the legacy CSP license program, everybody loved it, right? And we loved it too, because it was a very flexible program for us to set up for clients. It was very easy for us to transition clients from other providers that weren't maybe getting the best experience from that other provider. Maybe they weren't getting the best support experience from Microsoft directly, and we were easily able to transition that business over. It's a very, very flexible program in that it allows you to add and reduce counts. You're able to make changes, upgrade, downgrade, cancel subscriptions, cancel licensing, you know, things like that. A lot of people really, you know, kind of enjoyed the benefit of this program, and that's the one that we're calling Legacy CSP. And more than likely, if you haven't entered into new commerce experience yet, this is the program that you're experiencing or working with right now. Now, the new commerce experience, again, very briefly, is a pricing program change determined by how you provision and manage your licenses moving forward. So you need to make a decision on how you want to manage those licenses when you get into the new commerce experience. We're talking about seat-based licenses, so anything around Office 365, Microsoft 365, Dynamics, all your Power products, Project, Visio, all of that stuff. So again, not related to the price increase for those 6 core products we just covered. This is across the board, okay? This is a business decision you need to make for all seat-based licenses in your tenant. It's still the CSP program. It's just different. It's structured differently from the legacy CSP program that you know of today. Jason, maybe you want to cover premium, that this is one of the options that a customer can dive into under new commerce experience. In our opinion, probably not the best option, but it is an option. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rick. Definitely not one that I recommend very often when it comes to it, and probably the least preferred as far as from a pricing perspective. And also consider, the changes that Microsoft is making falls more in line with a lot of other SaaS-based organizations where you have that 1 year or 3 year commitment for the licenses. And One thing I recommend beforehand is reconciling going in with the lowest level of commitment on the licenses. With MicroAge, we do offer a storefront. So if you do need to add any licenses during the term, you have the flexibility of a self-service option, increasing licenses as needed throughout that 12-month term. What it does, going into a contract period, it locks in that price for that 12-month term of commitment. And then I would say at the end of the term would be the good time to reconcile or reduce licenses, any available licenses at that time. As far as the first purchasing option, so if you look at continuing what you're doing now under legacy, having the ability, not committing to a contract, you do have that option available. However, it does come, as you can see, with a 20% premium in order to do so. And a lot of times that may not make sense unless you foresee sometime down the road in the next 12 months that you might have a 20% reduction in the need of the licenses. And then in other cases, it depends on how far into the contract you are. Whereas taking advantage and avoiding that 20% uplift may be a better option, moving forward and just go in with the contract agreement for that level of commitment.
Yeah, for sure. So is it as flexible as the program that you're working under today, Legacy CSP? Yes, it is. However, it does carry a 20% premium if you decide to move forward with it. So it doesn't sound all that fun. So I think what we're sensing here is that Microsoft is, attempting to, get clients into a more committed type of program, which is really what the next slide is about. Jason, do you want to talk about this briefly?
Absolutely. So this is more of the preferred option, really to get the best advantage. When you look at the comparison in the next slide, I'll jump ahead, is, when you look at annual versus monthly, you do have the option to prepay, but there isn't any additional discount to do so. So if you're on a monthly agreement now, continuing on the monthly agreement would be one of the best options strategically. And the best thing that we can promote is going forward with the new commerce experience before March 1st, not only delays the price increase if you have any of those 6 core products, but it locks in that pricing for the next 12 months, where you'll be able to add additional licenses and they'll be under those same pricing terms of that agreement, at least until that time, and getting the early adoption promotion. Something to keep in mind, you will have the flexibility to add licenses mentioned there. Reducing licenses will no longer provide you a credit moving forward for the following month. And you also won't be able to downgrade licenses going from, for instance, business premium down to business basic. You'll still be able to upgrade, for instance, from business basic to business premium. So that option will be available, and we'll discuss a little bit more of those flexibility options a little later. I would say definitely look into this commitment as being one of the preferred options when it comes to the yearly commitment paid monthly as an option going forward.
Right. So a true annual commitment, a true annual subscription with monthly payments, right? However, there are some guardrails around it as opposed to the flexible program that you're experiencing today with Legacy CSP, and that you can't make some of these changes that you had the liberty to do under the Legacy CSP program. So why the deadlines? Why is everything so crazy right now as it relates to, the new commerce experience? Well, there are early adoption promotions. There are promotions in place that, hey, even though we recognize that you have subscription end dates and it's not until later this year and you have a couple months, to think about it. If you get into the program now, you stand to save additional money, at least for those first 12 months. Jason, do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest advantages, right? Microsoft has the early adoption promotion where you do get that 5% discount for the term that you sign up for. So that starts as soon as you provision NCE licenses. I would say NCE licenses will look exactly the same as what they do in your portal now for your admin portal. So nothing changes there. It's just that commitment level that you'll be seeing moving forward. Now, the current promotion is in effect until March 31st of 2022. So you do have that time, as long as you don't have any of those 6 core products to wait. In most cases, the majority of clients do have some form of those particular licenses, which would be affected moving forward even into NCE. Right now, you do have the advantage to delay that price increase as well as getting that additional 5% discount. So well worth considering making the decision sooner rather than later and avoiding that. Now, the monthly term promo for premium, applies at the regular annual term. So if you wanted to continue and under the monthly term, you do have that option and you won't have that 20% higher price point until after June 30th of 2022. And that's when the premium will start being for not having that yearly commitment in place.
You got it. And again, we have it stated here, right here in the middle, that the annual term promotional pricing will be in effect through March 31st of 2022. Does that mean you've got an extra month? It kind of does. But I want to give you an example of why we're suggesting that you try to enter into the new Commerce Experience program with promotional pricing by the 28th of February. Here's a quick example. Right now, Office 365 E3 runs $20 per user per month. Under the new Commerce Experience, if you provisioned 100 of these as an example with the 5% discount, you would be paying $1,900 a month for those 100 licenses, or about 19 bucks per user per month, and that would be yours for the next 12 months, right? Now, if you wait until March for the exact same promotion, remember, the price increase goes into effect on March 1st. And if you enter into NCE in March, you're basically creating a new subscription, which means you're subject to the price increase for Office 365 E3. So the new price goes up to $23 per user per month. So if you do the math here, you're looking at $21.85 per user per month. So there is a delta, there is a difference between getting into the NCE program now by the 28th or waiting until March in order to do this. Now, for you clients out there that have a significant amount of these types of licenses, if you do the math, it could be upwards of several $1,000s a month that you could potentially save by getting into the program now versus waiting until March. So I hope that makes sense. As far as some of the other deadlines are concerned, Jason, do you want to talk about this a little bit, and I can help with filling in the gaps?
Yeah, one answer to a question. Yeah, any licenses added during the term after committing to the 12-month agreement are coterminous with the original date. So one thing to keep in mind. The other deadlines, for the early adoption promotion right now, it is slated to end on March 31st. There is talks that could be extended. However, keeping in mind, even though you have that 5% early adoption promotion discount, Rick mentioned, you would be looking at the higher prices that go into effect on March 1st for any of those subscriptions. After June 30th, that's really one of the deadlines there for any renewals that can be done in legacy or adding additional licensing to existing contracted. So something to keep in mind is if you choose to do nothing and your underlying contract right now with legacy, as an example, ends on June 30th, your services will know your Office 365 services will no longer be available to you on July 1st. And that's really what Microsoft is forcing customers to move into the new commerce experience in order to get your Office 365 subscriptions. And that's when was mentioned that you're not going to have the option to continue having those services the way that you may be currently, whether it month to month or even under those yearly legacy contracts. Now is really the advantage where you can wait or delay that price increase and get the early adoption promotion. As of February 28, 2023, all customers that have Microsoft Office 365 subscriptions must be transitioned to the new Commerce Experience platform.
Yeah. And I would almost think of this as a plan A or plan B type of thing. Especially if you're a customer that has a high volume of these licenses that are going to be impacted by the price increase. So as Jason stated, Business Basic, Business Premium, E1, E3, E5, or Microsoft 365 E3, right? Considering early adoption under NCE before the 28th obviously is ideal. Plan B would be try to get something within that March to June window so that you can at least leverage, or at least the March window, so that you can at least leverage the promotional discount, um, even though your price increase is going to go into effect. And then, so it's something to think about. Obviously, we're available to meet and discuss with you in case you have any strategic questions that you'd like to go through. You know, MicroAge, has historically always offered what we call a license optimization assessment. So if you're a MicroAge client, or if you're not a MicroAge client, you're with another provider today or with Microsoft Direct, and if you need just one of our license experts, somebody on our team, to actually take a look at where you stand from a licensing perspective today, just to make some right size recommendations, look at use cases for licenses that you have assigned to specific users, things like that. That is something that we also try to take into consideration as you make your transition into the new commerce experience, right? So it's not necessarily just a one-to-one transition. If you can make some strategic decisions while making that transition, it's always a great idea. So, again, this is about cost effectively helping you navigate this, and it's not just done through the promotional discount, but it's also done through right sizing your environment, making sure that products and plans match the use cases of your users. There's also the thought of, what do you want to do with Microsoft over the next 12 months? If Azure MFA is important to you and you're not there yet, if Microsoft Endpoint Manager, formerly known as Intune, is part of your strategic plan and you're not there yet, there are some things we can do to provision like quantity one of some certain licenses and products and plans to at least get you the promotional discount, so that when you do adopt into these other products, all you need to do is just kind of up the counts on those particular licenses in order to do that. So those are the kinds of strategic things that we're trying to do with clients right now. So again, it's not just about, hey, let's just transition over to NCE. Let's think about this a little bit and make sure that you're you have a cost-effective point of entry into the program, but you're also thinking about the future a little bit. And I think, as Jason mentioned, on February 28th, 2023, everybody's on New Commerce Experience. So right now it sort of feels like this optional thing, but it's really not, because, Microsoft is obviously going to shift everybody over to this program. So we're suggesting that you at very least, take advantage of some of these discounts if you can. So I want to talk about the process a little bit, and this is really where Jason kind of shines. I mean, we have hundreds of CSP clients today, and he is, for the most part, spearheaded this whole operation as far as transitioning all of these clients over. We're doing a lot of work, especially in the month of February around this. So Jason, maybe you want to talk about the process for New Commerce Experience, just so all the clients at home that are listening just have an understanding of what the expectation might be. And quite frankly, this is probably something that aligns with what a lot of other CSP providers are doing right now as well. So if you do have a current provider, you're not yet with MicroAge on this, and this should be sort of in alignment with what they're proposing to you as well. But Jason, you want to talk about it?
Thanks, Rick. And one thing I would point out with Microsoft and licensing, it's an easy process to make a transition to another solution provider, or even from Microsoft directly. There's two links that provide delegated admin access, and that allows us to provision licenses and also provide our standard level of support, which is 24/7, 2-hour response time, focused really at the IT admins to provide any documentation and guidance as needed. Now, if you're doing the same licenses and the same license counts for your users, there's no additional action on your part as far as having to reassign a license once it's provisioned. We would provision the licenses first, and then you would see the license counts within your admin portal, and then you would reach out and cancel billing from the previous provider or directly with Microsoft, just to stop and avoid any type of double billing situation. With the existing clients making the New Commerce Experience conversion, we try to make it as easy as possible. We do have now the software agreement, which needs to be in place for the monthly yearly commit agreement, and that stipulates a lot of what we discussed here, where moving forward, Microsoft will no longer provide discounts for any licenses that also taking into consideration when licenses are added, they're prorated now based on the date of the month that they're added. So you'll see a prorated date when adding additional licenses, and then that would raise your level of commitment moving forward. And the final part is just agreeing as far as when you want the licenses provision and avoiding the deadline. If we can get this in, really we're trying to create this by February 24th, having all the software agreements documents in place. And then we will provision exactly the licenses that you have on the 28th so that we have the least amount of proration term possible. And then moving forward, you'll be good to go, and there no additional action required on your part.
Yeah, and as Jason mentioned, February 24th, that's a soft deadline that we're working with. That's not anything official from Microsoft. That's just something that we're proposing to clients. Because remember, access to the tenant, finalizing a quote, the software agreement, all this thing. There's a few pieces of documentation that need to be lined up, and that's why we're suggesting, hey, we can get all this stuff done by the 24th, and I know that's tomorrow, right? This is just another installment of a webinar that we wanted to schedule to make sure that you're educated. This isn't the only one that we've had, and we're just sort of trying to cram this in here last minute because we just realized what NCE was yesterday. That's not the case. We've been pushing this thing and talking about this thing heavily since October of 2021, as you can see on the website I showed earlier. Plenty of video content and webinar information on there for you to reference. But it is down to the wire, and we did notice that there are still several clients out there that are still kind of curious about this and concerned and perhaps feeling underinformed. And we just wanted to make sure we provided one more effort to get you the information that you needed. But again, our soft deadline for this is the 24th. We just want to make sure that everything's dialed in so that from a scheduling perspective, we can make sure that licenses are provisioned properly on the 28th. Jason, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
Just to address one of the questions that came in as far as applying to nonprofit. Right now, this is only applies to the commercial clients. So nonprofit, educational, government licenses, any GCC is not affected at this time. But with that caveat that Microsoft does have that in the as far as coming in within the next year, I would say, but not at this time, only commercial clients.
Yeah, Jason, your audio is cutting out a tiny bit there. Will the slide deck be available? Haven't decided on that yet, but this webinar will be posted on microage.com, for you to review. And of course, if you've got an account executive here at Microage that you're working with and you want to schedule some time, we're down to the wire, but we do still have, some time slots available to meet and discuss this with you. My suggestion is that you go that route, like we have a live discussion about it. So that we can help you, make a strategic decision around this, over the next handful of days that we have left. And speaking of which, I mean, we do have a couple action items, and we're wrapping up kind of early here. We weren't sure how many people were going to show up, and we weren't sure how many questions we were going to have. So we can still kind of stick around and address any additional questions that you may have. But I think first and foremost, your primary objective as a Microsoft customer as it relates to the NCE program is understand your current CSP subscription end dates. So if you go into your admin center, you go to billing, you go to licensing, and you look at your licenses and you drill into those subscriptions, you can find out what your subscription end dates look like. Some of them might be sooner rather than later, which means you're going to be impacted by some of these changes very soon. Some of them you might have a little bit of time to work with, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't embrace the early adoption program. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to leverage the 5% discount. There's some strategy here that you can still consider, but understanding those subscription end dates is very important, very, very helpful to you. And again, optimizing your licenses and plans, based on your use cases. So instead of just saying, yep, let's just move it all over, let's determine if what you have licensed today actually fits your vision and actually fits the use case of the users that you have. Because remember, as Jason stated earlier, your ability to make changes will be will be different, right? You're not going to be in as flexible of a program as you were before. So planning ahead and really understanding what the footprint's going to look like over the next 12 months is a really, really good idea. So again, let us help you with these optimization decisions, right? Making sure you're on the right plan, making sure it matches the use case, things like that. It also helps with managing cost. And again, considering the early adoption promotion for new commerce experience, the most cost-effective way to navigate this thing is February 28th. That's when you avoid the price increase and get the 5% discount. So it's kind of a double whammy if you can get your decision in by the end of this month. You still have the month of March to get the 5% discount, but remember, price increases will go into effect first before that discount is applied for those 6 core products. Jason, did you have anything else to add? Did I miss anything
Yeah,
as far as action
no,
items?
no, that was awesome. Thank you, Rick. And I would say one thing I want to take a moment and discuss, because there's some questions about, hey, if we add new licenses, things like that, or a new subscription, how will that be affected? One thing to consider, and what to Rick's point, is if there's any consideration of possibly moving, say, from instance, from business standard or from Office 365 E3 and adding EMS E3 to get the advantages of enterprise mobility and security with the endpoint manager, Intune, and Autopilot, and also having MFA requirements. One suggestion is going into NCE, taking one license, as Rick mentioned, and then as you need to add additional licenses, that option will be there locked in for that pricing term. Now, that'll be great for any new licenses that are added. One thing to consider is if it comes down the road, say 5 months from now, and now you want to add a new subscription that you don't currently have, that's going to create a new term within NCE for that new subscription. So somewhere down the line, let's say, for instance, we want to go with M365E5 as a plan. You'll be subject to whatever the current Microsoft pricing is at that date. So 5 months down the road, we want to add one license. That's going to create a new term and a new contract price like locked in for that subscription. Now you do have the option to upgrade, but let's take also into consideration if you do have plans already in place, locked in with NC, having that discounted price, at the time that you make the decision to upgrade, it'll allow you to upgrade those licenses, but that's also going to be at the current market price that Microsoft has on the date that that upgrade is made.
All right. Did we address all the other questions here? Jason, I think you like all in one breath hit like 4 questions in a row, which nicely done, sir. I think we've got it all covered here. Does anybody have any additional questions that they'd like to post? We'll give it a minute here. We're in no hurry and we blocked out 60 minutes. Well, we're in a hurry. No, I'm kidding. It's plenty
Not
to
at all.
do around this right now, but we're doing okay.
Most importantly is just looking at the strategy, right? We know what Microsoft is coming up with this promotion, what their objective is, and now is really the time where, from a strategic standpoint, we can at least delay that price increase on these products for the next 12 months by having them converted into new commerce experience. And then just looking into effect moving forward of all the customers that I'm sure are not going to make any decision, and then what's going to happen when. So in that consideration, look at, that's going to start relying on when that original contract started and when that date ends as far as what will happen. Before June 30th, it's going to be seen as differently versus after June 30th. After June 30th is really when you're going to start being forced to move to new commerce experience if you haven't already adopted in order to get Office 365. So something to take into consideration now is June isn't too far along the line to where you get the most optimal benefit of making the conversion, taking advantage of delaying that price increase and getting the early adoption promotion.
Yeah, and I'll answer Doug's question really quick because the audio did break up when you were talking about nonprofit. The short answer is we're not sure. We're not sure yet. Microsoft has given no announcements as to when the nonprofit education or government will be impacted by new commerce experience. We do know that obviously the commercial is in effect, but we're going to continue to keep our ear to the floor on all of this stuff because we do have, again, a large amount of clients that are impacted by these changes as we move forward. So stay tuned and stay in touch with us, and we'll continue to keep you informed as these changes come. Question for Josh: for the NCE transition, subscriptions need to be added to NCE, and somebody just posted a massive chat here, and then correspondingly removed, canceled in CSP. Jason, you want to explain the process for why we schedule these things and why we say the last day of the month?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I like to have as much work as possible is the real answer, Rick. But to that point is I'm very cognizant and do the best that we can to avoid any type of double billing situations. When doing this conversion on the last day of the month, that provides the least amount of time for a prorated term. And when you look at adding them, you're at a full month from when they're added plus 1 day. So that's why we would provision the licenses under new commerce experience as they have new SKUs for each of the products. And then if we are the current CSP provider, we would remove any of the legacy licenses, and that locks in the commitment for that term. Any clients that are current clients with us, we would match exactly on the 28th, for instance, for this month, what licenses are provisioned, and then converting those directly into the new commerce experience so that there's no additional action on your part other than giving the go ahead, having the signed software agreement in place, and then letting your AE know that you're ready to move forward.
And I think there's two types of clients here as it relates to the cancellation question on CSP. If you're a microage customer right now, a microage CSP client, uh, transitioning your legacy CSP licenses out and into NCE is part of our process. If you're a microage customer right now or client, but you're not CSP with us, maybe you're with another provider or Microsoft Direct, there is some work you're going to need to do on your part on that last day of the month to request cancellation of the other provider or to cancel within your admin center if it's Microsoft Direct subscription. But we will communicate that with you so that you make sure that you're clear on what you need to do. But the number one rule there is make sure we have our NCE licenses in there first before you make any changes with the other provider, so you have no interruption of service to your users. Very, very important. Question for Josh is, what about new license types, no coterm? So if you enter into NCE right now and you've got 5 different products on there, that's a single subscription for those 5 products. If somewhere down the road you decide to add a different product, creates a new term and a new subscription for that product. So it's a separate ballgame. So no, it would not be co-termed. It would be a separate 1-year agreement. That's why we're suggesting, okay, if you're going to be adopting new products over the next 12 months, maybe provision one of those right now with the single agreement, get the 5% promotional discount for that product. And as you adopt it in and up your counts, it's all part of that single preliminary subscription, if that makes sense. Any other questions, Jason? Whoa, there's more.
No, one was just in regards to for the nonprofits and them being affected. And right now, Microsoft hasn't stated when NC will apply to nonprofits or educational or government, but it is on the roadmap. I'm sure they'll be making an announcement in the future in that regards. But excellent point too, Rick. We definitely want to make sure that there's no interruption of service in any way, making this change or even moving from a different provider. So we definitely want to have the licenses provisioned first and then canceling with any of those providers so that there isn't any change or any additional actions when it comes to assigning users. Nothing changes within the admin portal, and then you're good to go with us from that point for locking in the next 12 months.
Awesome. And I don't think any other questions have come in. So we would like to thank you very much for joining us one more time for this event. And again, as more information comes in, we'll continue the outreach. We'll continue to provide information off of our website and through these types of events. My suggestion right now is if you still have questions, concerns, anything you need to address right away, reach out to your account executive and let's see if we can get something on the books so we can talk to you. Again, it's a very short window that we have right now, and we're working on this a lot, but we'll try to figure out a way to speak with you if it's important. Outside of that, Jason, do you have anything you want to add, brother?
I want to thank everybody for joining us today and hopefully found some value and imperative critical deadlines. I know in place and we're running fast towards that deadline and want to be here to help everybody along the way that we can from a strategical point. If there's any other additional products, services, anything that we can help you on, we definitely have expanded resources of our own internally, whether it's using Azure services and helping with when it comes to uh, additional hands-on assistance. We have a whole team really certified for engineers dedicated with Microsoft that can help out.
Cool. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much. We'll get you. We happy to get you a recording of this session on microage.com. And if you need anything else, please reach out to your account executives. Thank you all so much.